gentlemen, Off the Bench. We're back here for episode 2. We've got a few things we want to talk about this week. We've got week 4 of college football. We've got a couple injuries this week in the NFL that have shaken the landscape. Tough day for Pittsburgh fans, tough day for the New Orleans Saints fans. And then finally, we've got a preview of the St. Vincent College football game this week against Westminster. So, to start off, let's talk about the 2 injuries that shook the NFL. Noah, this one's probably close to home for you with Ben going down with the elbow injury, but, there could be some brights that come out of the situation.
Yeah, it really shocked me. There's nothing else to say there. I was at the game yesterday, so I was telling you guys before the show that I didn't actually see it happen, but it always sucks when you see a quarterback go down in a non-contact injury. Not that it makes it any better in a contact injury, but it's just a shame, and it's a tough blow for a Steeler team that's already struggling 0-2 out of the gates against 2 tough opponents.
Yeah.
But in Ben's statement in today's news, he said that he plans on coming back to play. We'll see how that shakes out. What happens in the next 14 weeks might determine Mike Tomlin's career and the era of Mason Rudolph. Will it be an era of him being a backup, or will it be him taking Ben's place? The next 14 weeks will tell us that. And Maui, I don't know, you being a football player, how do you get a backup quarterback, if you've ever had an instance like this, how do you get a backup quarterback ready to play when you have a star quarterback like this playing out a 16-year career?
During my career, I really haven't had backup quarterbacks come in and play with my football team, but I would imagine that you just maybe sit him down, talk to him, and just have every single player just support him the best you can. Because that's what it is. At the beginning of the season, your Hall of Fame quarterback's out for the whole year. A young guy, his second year, I believe?
Yeah.
Second year in the league.
Yeah.
And so you just really have to stick to him. There's going to be mistakes. Most likely.
Absolutely.
There's
going to be growing pains with a rookie.
So you just have to be there, pat him on the back, obviously teach him through those mistakes, and just wish nothing but the best for him.
So in your opinion, coaching is going to be a big part in this?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And I think that
this will really show how good the Steelers coaching staff, especially their offense, Fiechner, how really good that coaching staff is.
And Fiechner is a former quarterbacks coach with Ben Roethlisberger, so we'll see what happens there. But I've seen tweets and a lot of people saying, and I agree with them, if Mike Tomlin can lead this team to an 8-8 season or 9-7 season, he'll gain a lot of respect from me. Because this is just a shock. It really is a shock. Like I said, I saw the play that happened to Ben, and immediately when you see somebody grab for their elbow, you think the worst.
Especially non-contact.
Yeah, and it's just a shame whether it comes out. It hasn't come out yet what exactly happened. Probably UCL tear, which would probably require Tommy John surgery. And I don't know if you've seen in the news as well, Jake Delhomme had this surgery years ago and said that his arm strength was back to 100% in 6 months. So that's a quick recovery. People recover differently. But we'll see what happens. I don't think this is the end of a career for Ben Roethlisberger yet.
I don't think so. Even if he pulls a Favre, maybe retires, I don't think he'll play anywhere else though.
I don't think
he would.
The only other place that I could see him playing is with Bruce Arians, but still, I know that our producer Phil said before the show, why would he want to do that with maybe if he does it 2 years left on his contract. And they could probably be mediocre years at the end of his career. But it's a blow. It's a tough loss for the Steelers, but this is something the teams have to bounce back from. They lost 3 superstars now from last year's team and previous years. It's going to be a huge difference going out there and playing with a younger team. But Baker Mayfield and Mason Rudolph have seen each other in college before. One of the best offensive games.
I looked at the numbers, and just me personally, I loved it because I already got comments about it that it's going to be another Mason Rudolph versus Baker Mayfield duel, and I looked it up. Baker has just me personally, I loved it because I already got comments about it that it's going to be another Mason Rudolph versus Baker Mayfield duel, and I looked it up. Baker has a 3-0 record against Mason Rudolph and the Oklahoma State Cowboys because Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, obviously most people know, are rivals. And in Baker's senior year game, he threw for 598 yards, 6 total touchdowns, 5 through the air, 1 with his legs. I mean,
Mason. Yep.
it was just it was unreal.
combined
the amount of
1,000 passing yards.
I mean, you got to think the Big 12 really doesn't play defense, so
It's going to be different in an
it'll be
in an
a lot
NFL game.
different in an NFL game, and that's what everybody was saying. But we'll see. I mean, the other big injury was to Drew Brees.
Yeah.
The only difference I can see here, where Saints fans can feel okay, is that their backup quarterback's Teddy Bridgewater, who has starter experience.
And he had some success in Minnesota.
He
took
before,
him to the playoffs.
before that horrible knee injury that he's finally recovering
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
But
You want me?
Oh yeah, I'll go on
Go
this. Yeah, you know what? Everyone thought the Saints-Rams game, high scoring. I was expecting a 35, 38-point game. When it happened, I didn't think too much. I thought, oh, he'll be back maybe second quarter or second half. But he has to get surgery on his thumb. He'll be out 6 weeks. So right now, this is a big advantage time for Carolina and Atlanta.
Yep.
I know you said Carolina will win the NFC South. I mean, they're 0-2 right now, lost to the Bucs. That's
Tough
not really
lot
the
at
best.
home too.
Yeah,
At home too.
Atlanta, they won against the Eagles last night, so this is really time for both teams to really step it up, get take an advantage on this
Yeah.
injury.
And I agree with you. In yesterday's game, when you see Saints Rams, you think offensive,
Mm-hmm.
but the Saints got screwed by an NFL referee again. I don't, and I'll go back and I think the Saints fans complain too much, and
I mean, you could argue that about Steelers fans. You could argue that about any.
I'm talking about the rule change.
Okay.
The pass interference rule change was solely, and you can agree with me or disagree with me. It was solely based off of one team's fans complaining. It was a terrible call. Don't get me wrong.
Awful.
Don't get me
That
wrong.
was
But
awful.
terrible calls happen all the time. Look, ask Des Bryant about a terrible call in the playoffs years ago.
And then they changed that rule right
Yeah,
after.
exactly.
Yep.
So,
Jesse James.
Did you watch any of the Steeler game yesterday? I don't know if you caught the pass interference call that ultimately changed the game.
Yeah.
I don't know the definition of pass interference anymore. Pass interference, according to the rule right now, if you go in and you replay a pass interference penalty that wasn't called originally, it was not called on the field. They went back and reviewed it and ended up calling it pass interference. It has to be clear and overwhelming evidence is the definition. I don't see, listen, I said when the play happened, that's interference. They didn't throw the flag. So you have to stick with the call on the field in that instance. It was not overwhelming evidence to overturn that call, and it's changing games.
It's tough.
I feel like the problem is now the officials are relying too much on replays and not their own intuition. And I feel like that's taking away almost from them doing their jobs.
Yes.
And that's giving.
Yes.
That's the toughest call to make.
That is.
It is.
Those are the
in
toughest.
football. It
Well,
is.
I mean, a lot of those calls can be tough for anybody.
But in all those calls, unless you see a block in the back that's obvious
That's
or a
obvious.
hold that's obvious,
Yeah.
a lot of these pass interference calls are judgment calls. So how can you go back and review a judgment call because it's still going to be a judgment based off whoever's
Exactly.
reviewing it?
But
There's
I
no
mean-
clear definition of it.
I mean, you're talking about holding calls and stuff like that. Holding happens all the time on the interior offensive
yeah,
line.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it
it's
never
not
gets
called.
called.
It's not.
I
called.
mean, if you want to talk about overturning pass interference calls, why don't we take a look? Why don't we
Yeah.
have a line cam?
why don't you look
I
at
mean, if we're
everything?
gonna-
Why don't you look at everything?
Why are we?
That'll
Why?
just slow down the pace of
Yeah,
the game, which
exactly.
you will not like, but
I mean,
And I
the
think that
game's
it already-
slowed down.
Especially
is.
with pass
Especially
interference.
with pass interference. It's if you get a pass interference penalty and it doesn't get called and you have to review it, it totally kills the momentum of your
Oh,
drive.
Yeah.
like watching golf.
It is. It's just
Yeah. But the Saints did get screwed yesterday on that call. The
Yeah.
whistle should not have been blown.
On the
on the fumble.
Yes, on the fumble.
Cam Jordan, yeah. that was
Listen, you know
awful.
what? If I'm the refs,
I
let
it
them
go.
play it
Let
out. If you make a mistake, you catch it on video. But once you blow the whistle,
It's over.
that's the
It's
play.
dead play.
That
So
happened.
let it go out,
that
even if
happened.
you know you're wrong.
That happened to the Browns week 17 last year when they were playing the Ravens. They had a strip sack on. They had what looked like a strip sack on Lamar Jackson, and they were taking it all the way back, and the refs blew play dead. That would have won them the game.
Yeah.
It's just
Would have got the Steelers.
It's just
Would have got the Steelers in the playoffs too. That would have been a win-win for both teams.
Ticky-tack, it all
It
depends.
is,
Yeah.
and it's all like we keep
It's
saying.
ticky-tack,
It comes back to that being a judgment call. How can you review a judgment call? I don't know.
They gotta fix it somehow.
Yeah, it has to be, and this isn't the solution. I'm telling you right now,
No, it's,
it's not the
I
solution.
agree.
It's a shame, and I'm not just saying that because it cost the Steelers a possession yesterday. There were many things that went wrong for the Steelers
Oh, yeah.
yesterday. But that play could have changed the game. You're looking at 3rd and 20 if that is not called pass interference in Seattle's own territory for Seattle with the ball. But they called pass interference. Now you're in Pittsburgh territory. 2 plays later, or maybe 1 play later, they score a touchdown. It changes games. It changes games.
It really does.
So, anyway, moving on.
Moving on to the football that people actually care about, college football. We're in week 4 of college football, and we're starting to get into the nitty-gritty. We're starting to get into some good matchups. So, boys, what kind of games are you looking to watch this weekend, this Saturday and this
Well, I
Friday?
have 4 of them.
Okay,
Utah State, against USC.
that's who I was predicting.
Yeah. I think upset.
You think USC beats Utah?
Yeah.
Well, you're a USC guy, though.
I am, but you
Yeah.
know what? Their freshman quarterback came in for JT Daniels towards the ACL. Did pretty well. Won him against Fresno State. Another game, Michigan, Wisconsin.
I have that game.
That-
I know your
I
boy
do
Jim
too.
Harbaugh down
Good,
there.
good, solid Big Ten matchup.
Yeah. Pitt versus UCF.
I'll be there.
You'll be at that game?
I'll be at that game. Pitt
You're
is
gonna
12-point underdogs to
I'll
start.
take Pitt.
Hey, I like
Really?
that.
I'll take Pitt.
Can I join in real quick here? Because why are you taking Pitt? Let me ask you that question.
You know what? UCF really doesn't face.
Yeah, they don't face.
They don't face.
I know you don't want to say it, but I'll say it. Strong opponents.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
can.
you know what? Pitt's just gonna have. I think this is the game at Pitt. You know, this puts Pitt back on the map a little bit.
Well, I thought that was going to be last week going into State College.
Oh, that's different.
in
I mean,
It's
that's right.
I saw
playing there
Who
too.
they lose to?
Penn State,
That's
and I solely put
You're welcome, Caleb.
I solely
It's
put
not-
that on the coach.
It wasn't a bad. I agree with you.
The players played.
17 it was a 17-10 game.
Yeah, against
It wasn't
the top
terrible.
15
And you
team
said
about their
Kenny
place.
Pickett played his best game.
Did you see that on my Twitter?
I did,
you
I
see
did.
my tweets? Did you
Yeah.
see that? He did. He played. That was the best game of Kenny Pickett's
Yeah,
career.
so you know what? I think this will be a good one. Hopefully Pitt takes this one. Another game, Georgia, Notre Dame.
That's going to be a barn burner.
That's gonna be a real.
I honestly,
that's the game of the week.
honestly, I don't think it'll be as much of a barn burner as people. I think that Georgia
Is gonna
can
smack
start
them.
and they're going to smack them,
That's what I think.
and Notre Dame is
I
going to
agree.
drop out of the top
I
10
agree.
because of it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Notre Dame plays nobody.
Now listen, I'm not getting.
Sorry,
Or
they
they're
don't.
independent.
They're independent, I
know that.
understand, but did you know that Notre Dame, back in, I think it was the 80s, they played Ohio State in a 2-game series? I think they had a 2-game contract, it was a home-home. They lost to Ohio State both of those games, and they have never played Ohio State in the regular season
Yeah,
since.
I agree with that. With the Georgia Notre Dame
So
game,
those
it's really
were-
gonna be a good
Those
game.
were my games.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you might have.
I
the
had
same.
2 the same. The only one I added was Auburn and Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
And
that one.
actually, the game's being played at A&M. Auburn's ranked 8th, Texas A&M's ranked 17th. Texas A&M is the favorite at home,
Really?
being would you say higher ranked team or lower? I don't know how you guys judge it based off of what you want to say, but I think that Auburn, I guess, is going to pull an upset there, even though they're the better ranked team.
Yeah.
But in Notre Dame and Georgia, I watched Notre Dame play their first game of the year. Little shaky, could be first game jitters, who knows. I think that Notre Dame is a weaker team, but if they would somehow win this game, this could be an early elimination game for the
For Georgia?
for the
For the
playoffs.
Dogs?
Yeah, for the even because if Notre Dame loses, their
They're basically
chances
done. Yeah.
are done. And if Georgia loses, they're going to have a tough time unless they can end up winning the SEC, which obviously has put major toll on the committee
Yeah.
because they value the SEC because of Alabama.
Well, that is like some of the best football.
Oh yeah, I'm not disagreeing, but they
So
show
is the
that they
Big Ten,
value
so is the Big
committee.
Ten.
It's
They
some of the
value
best
the-
football,
yeah.
but who else do they play?
True.
Who do they play?
I wish they faced each other during like the
Yeah.
actual season.
Well, what I get upset
But they
with,
don't.
with
They
the
would beat each
SEC is
other
they
up.
don't they
Yeah.
don't play out of conference games.
Exactly. I wish they did.
I wish they did too. Like played Ohio State in like November, that week that they play Mercer or the Citadel before they play
Yeah.
Auburn.
Hey,
Come play Ohio State.
Like-
last year.
Come play Ohio State.
All bias aside, looking at the ACC, look at the non-conference schedule that Pitt plays. Penn State and UCF, two top 15 teams on the non-conference schedule. Look at Clemson. They play Texas A&M. The SEC non-conference schedule is better than the SEC's. They play tougher.
The SEC does play tougher.
They play, and same with the Big Ten. Same with the for some teams.
I know Ohio
For some
State's kind of
teams.
been
But
but I mean, 2 years ago they played Oklahoma, and then I think they also played TCU last year. So they played 2 Big 12 teams.
yeah,
And they lost to that was the year they lost.
play
to
Power
Oklahoma.
5 non-conference.
Yeah.
Play a Power
Play a
5
Power-
non-conference.
If you
schedule.
want to do a tune-up game week 1, I understand against like
Exactly.
a MAC school or someone like that, or an FCS team. But for the rest of your season, make it competitive. Make it games
Yeah.
that people want to go to.
Well, in the NCAA, this is partly on them because the schedule doesn't help out either. Playing the different teams, like Penn State plays more conference games than the ACC because of the Big Ten.
As does Ohio State.
Exactly. So now a big rivalry between Pitt and Penn State, which we saw how that rivalry supposedly is going to come to an end. They can't play anymore. They can't play the rivalry game anymore because Penn State doesn't want to fit it into their schedule. Pitt wants to, but again, in Penn State's defense, you'll never hear me defend Penn State again, by the way. In Penn State's defense, they play more conference games. Why would they play a team like Pitt where if they win, well, Pitt's not that good. If they lose, it makes them look bad.
Well, here's the question: if Penn State loses to Pitt next year, do they want
It's
that
done.
rivalry to end? It's going to end
done.
with a
It's end. This is
Really?
it. This is it.
really.
It was a 4-game contract. Each team got a home game twice. That's it. So Pitt wants to renew the contract, and their schedule abides by it, but Penn State obviously doesn't because they play more conference games.
Yep.
In my opinion, each conference should play the same amount of conference games, especially when you look at teams going to the playoffs. That's
Exactly.
my opinion.
All right.
Isaac, your games?
I mean, I had most of the games you guys had. I also, though, had Texas playing Oklahoma State. Because
Yeah.
those Big 12 games are always shootout games. I love watching those.
Yeah.
That's like watching an arena football game. It's just
Yeah.
offense is going off. I mean, we'll see if Texas can keep it going after that devastating loss to LSU a couple weeks ago, where they had like the brown filter on the camera during the game. But Oklahoma State's always never a team to just kind of brush off. I mean,
Well, there's no gimmies in the Big 12
There's
because there's
never-
no defense.
no, there's no defense.
There's no
It's
defense.
It's an
It's just-
offensive conference. I mean, going from Division I college to Division III college. Maui, what do we got this week? Westminster, how are we
Yes.
looking?
Big offensive team.
Big offensive
Westminster.
team.
Huh?
Big offensive
They play
team.
who?
Westminster.
Capital. They're
Capital.
not. They're not.
And
good.
Waynesburg.
Capital's at the
trash.
bottom of the OAC.
Okay.
Capital's at the bottom of the
So
OAC.
really, they haven't had any competition. They really love to run the ball. Some big boys up front. Probably the best way to beat them is to make their quarterback throw the ball. We've watched film on him. Not the best. Pretty small. So if we rough him up a little bit, he'll probably sit out. I think though we have to play with the lead. I think once again having Westminster down by a little bit will cause them to throw the ball a lot. So I think that's going to be big for us, and making not as many mistakes as we did in the first game. You guys probably saw a lot of that, especially on special teams. So if we can clean all that up, I think this will be a game and hopefully in our favor.
If you can answer this question, what will the atmosphere be like at Westminster? Will it be rowdy or?
I've been up there.
Look out.
It's farmland.
They're out
Yeah.
in the boonies.
They're
up there.
out in the boondocks.
You think
Lot of
we're up?
trees.
You think Latrobe's out in the boonies? That's just
Yeah, but
nowhere.
I imagine there's going to be a lot of people there.
Night game?
No,
Day game?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
1
Does that
o'clock.
benefit the Bearcats or does that hurt the Bearcats?
It'll be 85 or 88 degrees out, so
Wow.
Ooh.
And how
I mean,
long's
we're kind of used to playing at 1 o'clock since we have no
You
lights
are.
here.
how long's the trip?
2 hours, an hour 45, 2 hours.
What have you seen in previous years taking a 2-hour, 2.5-hour trip and longer trips, how your team comes out to play?
That all depends on, I guess, our mindset entering the game. Like, one of our coaches said this: we have to win the battle in our mind first before we win it on the field. Yeah, Isaac. And I think I agree.
I like
with
that.
I agree.
I like it,
I
yeah.
agree with him.
I
I
agree.
really do. I think it all depends on the mindset. Once we step on foot on that bus, is this going to be a personal trip that we got to settle the score? Westminster's had our number for the last, I don't know how many years. It's time to put St. Vincent back on the map. and I think we started here with a win against Westminster.
Sounds wonderful.
Oh, well,
I'll be traveling with you guys.
That's
I'll be
good.
filming.
Good.
but we'll have a football player come on next week and hopefully
Yeah,
in a good mood with a Bearcat
Yep.
victory.
hopefully. There'll be
Yeah. But good luck to you and the Bearcats on Saturday taking
Thank
on
you.
Westminster.
Yeah.
We'll be rooting you on back here.
Yep. And then following week it's home for Carnegie Mellon, correct?
Carnegie.
Carnegie Mellon.
That'll be fun. Home game, Carnegie.
Yeah.
I don't know what they
Winnable game?
They're all winnable.
They're all winnable.
They're
I
all
like
winnable.
that. That's a good answer.
They're all winnable.
That's a good answer.
Alright. Is that it?
Yep.
That's it. That's
That'll
all
do it
we
for
got
us here
today.
at Off the Bench. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace!